Hey guys, Virgin Vinyl with you again today on this lovely afternoon here. It's starting to, the seasons are starting to change, so the weather is becoming quite lovely as the winter goes away and we get the beginning of the, well, I guess you call it spring, but I mean it pretty much just jumps straight into summer over here once it gets going after a couple of weeks. Anyway, you're not here for a fucking weather report, you're here for some vinyl, and here we go. Today, I've got Bruford, One of a Kind. This is the second album from Bruford, from Bill Bruford, and it's one that most people cite as his best, and I think I agree. For a long time, feels good to me. The first one was my favorite, and I think that's mainly because I knew it better. And I kind of, it's funny, like when I first heard that album, the Annette Peacock vocals were initially a turn off to me. I sort of was like, I'm not sure about this, but then I grew to really love the weirdness and the sort of in-your-faceness of it, you know. Of course, you know, Allan Holdsworth is one of the major draws of this band for me, and like he's probably my second favorite guitarist. You know, if there is such a thing. I love so many musicians and there's so many great players and everything like that, but I think like there's certain guys that really change the game in such a significant way, and that change and that vision and you know, groundbreaking nature of their work particularly connects with me on a personal level. So you know, that's why sometimes if I was to say, well, this is a favorite, you know, gun to my head, well, you know, I'd say John McLaughlin and I'd say Allan Holdsworth. But you know, at the end of the day, I love so much music, so anyway, that doesn't really matter. So, you know, Bill Bruford, of course, came up, you know, he was, as a teenager, he discovered his love of drums and was inspired by jazz players like Max Roach and Art Blakey, as well as guys like Ginger Baker. And he eventually would play in a, you know, in various different bands, sort of jazz and R&B of the 60s. And eventually, after coming to London when he was around 19 years old, answered an ad in the music press, Melody Maker I think it was, from John Anderson. And of course the whole era of the early days of Yes were formed. And you know, of course, for a lot of prog rock fans, that era of Yes is the definitive era of Yes, especially Fragile and Close to the Edge, and the Yes album as well. Like those are really legendary, absolute masterpieces of the genre of progressive rock and game changers. And Bill Bruford's really interesting, often understated but really unique and loaded with personality style of drumming really is a big part of that. And anyway, eventually he would leave to go and join King Crimson, and that is also an incredible era of that band. You know, those albums, especially Red, are also regarded as cornerstones of progressive rock and absolute essentials, especially in my book. But I think most people who are progressive rock fans would agree with that. I don't think that's a controversial statement at all. Anyway, of course, that incarnation of King Crimson would eventually come to an end, and you know, Bill would eventually play with King Crimson again in the Discipline era in the 80s. But in the meantime, he did some solo albums. So It Feels Good to Me has the same lineup as this, which of course, there's the guys on the back. You've got Bill Bruford, of course. You've got Allan Holdsworth. You've got Dave Stewart and on keyboards, and Jeff Berlin on bass. Fantastic lineup, almost like a supergroup, really. And there's the guys. And on the first album, it was really, especially from Allan Holdsworth's point of view, like much more of a session gig, and like probably if you ask the other guys in the band too, they would have said the same thing. Whereas, and you can sort of tell, like when you listen to that album, it has a different approach. This is much more like session players who happen to be some of the best players in the world coming in to play Bill Bruford's compositions and play them mighty well and incredibly, and I love that album. For a long time, that was my favorite Bruford album. But I think in recent times, this one has surpassed it because it does more of what I want out of music, which is I'm more of a jazz rock fan than I am a prog rock fan, as much as I love a lot of prog. But I think this album pushes, it's still progressive rock, but it pushes into the jazz rock world more. And excuse me, that gross and like gluggy all over. I'm still like just, I don't know, maybe it's a change of season or something, but I'm just sorry about that. I know it's kind of gross. I apologize. But on this album, one of the things that really appeals to me about it is the fact that the guys, when they came back to do this album, this time it was a much more collaborative affair. It was much more of a band album. Still playing Bruford's compositions for the most part, but the other guys do have some writing credits on here as well. I think it's that's actually the back of the album there. What I was showing you was the picture of the inner sleeve, which is that one there. And so you've got here mostly, so Stewart writes the first one, Hell's Bells. Then you've got Bruford, Stewart, Bruford on side one. And then for 5G, you got Jeff Berlin and Stewart and Bruford writing together. The Abingdon Gasp is Holdsworth. And then in the Sahara of Snow, part 2 of that is written with Bruford and Jobson. So, there's a little bit more, but that doesn't really give away really the whole truth of the album, because even on Bruford's compositions, the other guys were contributing their like a huge amount to their parts. And Allan Holdsworth is absolutely incredible all over this. I mean, he's always incredible, really. He's just like totally unique. Now there's people that play like him, but and if people are coming to this now, they probably hear what he's doing, and it doesn't sound that revolutionary, but back in the 70s, nobody played like that. And it was because of his innovations on the guitar and his approach that so many people, mostly in recent years, I would say maybe in the last 10 years or so, maybe a little bit more, really started acknowledging his genius and copying it and learning from it and trying to be like it and in some way. And you see, like, there are now quite a few guitarists out there who can do the Allan Holdsworth thing, or at least mimic it pretty well. But of course, it wasn't just about his sound or his technique. It was also about his harmonic approach. It was about his philosophy towards music. And even though this is a Bruford album, you can hear a lot more of that stuff that I'm talking about from Allan Holdsworth on this album, as opposed to Feels Good to Me, which he also plays his ass off on that, but it's more like as a session play. Like it's more like just for the solos, he comes in for the solos. Here you can sort of, there's a little bit more of, I think his compositional chops are present within this, which is really awesome, because I love Allan's compositions. I love the way he approaches music. It's so unique and different. And that combined with, probably one of the most iconic drummers in prog rock history, who is also a lover of jazz and improvisation. And then when you've got an incredible keyboard player like Dave Stewart in there, who absolutely kills as well all over this thing. And then, the mighty Jeff Berlin, who's another guy that, he's a kind of a divisive figure. I know he rubs some people up the wrong way because of his strong opinions about how music should be taught and how it should be learned. And he's very opinionated about that, but he's a great, one of the great bass players from the 70s, absolute master, and he's playing his off the charts here on this album, as is everybody. And that's what's so awesome about this album. It just doesn't really have any weak spots, and I really love how Bruford is able to what am I trying to say here? Progressive rock and jazz rock fusion, they have a lot of points of intersection, right? They have a lot of points where they overlap, but it's I don't think anybody does it so sort of seamlessly as Bruford, or maybe from the progressive side of things anyway, because he's coming, from the progressive rock world, and yet on here you have burning fusion as well, and it's very, I think people who are from both camps, from the prog rock fans and the jazz rock fusion fans, can both find a lot to love with this album. And I think they do. It's an incredible album, an absolute masterpiece, and I absolutely love it. I mean, anything with Allan Holdsworth on it, especially in recent years, Allan has just grown and grown and grown in my estimation. And I'll admit, I told you before on the Allan Holdsworth, when I had Velvet Darkness, that I was always a huge fan of his stuff with other bands like this, but couldn't really get into his solo material for a long time. It was over my head. But one thing about me that I like about myself when it comes to music is that even when I don't get something at first, I can usually tell that there's something about it that I should get, and that I should spend some time with it, and that I should invest maybe even years. Okay, you don't get it now, but find your way there, because eventually it'll pay off. And it definitely has with Allan Holdsworth, because now I'm just obsessed with all of his solo work and everything. So it's made me going over the recent years, going down a deep Allan Holdsworth rabbit hole has made me appreciate even more what he's doing here, because it just shows that in any context that the guy, he's taking Bruford's excellent material and lifting it into utter fucking transcendent perfection. That's the way I feel about it anyway. Alright guys, that's it for today. Please hit the subscribe button. It's kind of dried up lately. I don't know. I'm thinking about what sort of content I can do for this channel, and I think what I might do is start doing some more edited videos like I do on my other channel. This is all unedited. I just set the phone up and pick up an album and talk about it, talk off the cuff. There's no preparation or anything like that, as you can probably tell. Half the time I'm just rambling incoherently, but I'm running out of records, so I won't be able to just keep doing a record a day until when I fly to America. in July, I'll be picking up at least 21 records, but I have a whole list of other stuff I want to buy over there, especially metal stuff. And hopefully we'll be picking, the stores and stuff, and Goodwill and all sorts of places. I'll be looking for bargains and cool stuff. So hopefully I'll come back with maybe 30 records. But even still, I just don't have the kind of money that I can buy enough records to keep this whole one record a day going. So what I think I'll do is, do what I do on the other channel. I'll highlight certain artists, maybe do like more sort of, I'll edit them with music. I'll do more research, and I'll just make it better. I'll try and find interviews and just make it cooler, like I do on the Metal Spotlight. By the way, if you are enjoying this channel and you like metal, check out my other channel called the Metal Spotlight. It's got that kind of stuff, more in depth, more sort of researched and more edited, with a lot more music in the videos as well, not just me talking. All right, guys. If you got this far, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.